All right. Call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Our first item, we're going to hold off until oath of office for our new board member. He's running a little bit late. Move into public comment. I don't believe we have anybody here. If you're out there in the virtual land, please leave your comment, Facebook comment, and somebody will get back to you on that. I'll move to board discussion. We have the Board of Education meeting minutes from the July 20th meeting. Any questions or comments on those? All right, motion to approve those minutes. John, second by Kevin. All in favor? All right, anyone else have anything else for board discussion tonight? All right, move into superintendent's report.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, those joining us virtually. I'll ask you to kind of go along with this super report that I put in front of you this evening. The summer program 2021, I'm not going to go into great detail. That will be done in the September meeting, but I am happy to report that we have 14 additional graduates from this summer. So that in of itself is a positive story. The 14 students of the class of 2021 will be receiving their diploma in our fall ceremony. Obviously, as you know, we had hundreds and hundreds of students participate K through 12th grade. A lot of experiential learning opportunities, a lot of trips. Osama has done a nice job of showcasing the experiential learning opportunities our students have had. I want to thank the administration and the staff, everybody who came together to make the summer's learning opportunity as meaningful as it was for our students. Our coaches, we asked them midsummer to come together and put those camps together, and we had a lot of students take advantage of those opportunities as well. So I want to thank everybody for their efforts this summer. And you'll get harder numbers from the administration in the September board report. The vast majority of my report today is going to be centered around our return to school for September 2021. I want to start by clarifying a date that was in the Leader Herald article today. It said that Monday, September 13th was the first day of school. That is inaccurate. It is Tuesday, September 7th. So anybody listening at home, make sure that you mark the calendar that Tuesday, September 7th will be the first day of students. And I'm happy to report that's all students. All students in grades pre-K through 12th grade will be here 5 days a week for in-person learning. And that is the biggest story that we have to tell tonight, is that the state government, both the Department of Health, especially the Department of Education, has recognized the importance of in-person learning. And they've made it clear that that is a priority, and it's our priority as well, along with keeping students and staff safe. So there's been a lot of conversations about mask wearing, and that seems to be I certainly understand why it is a flashpoint for people on both sides of the issue. People have strong opinions regarding masks, but I just want to make it crystal clear to people at home that our priorities, the Board of Education and the administration priorities, are in-person learning and the safety and well-being of our students and staff. A choice on masks, it would be great. And if we were in the low to moderate range like we were all summer, we would continue doing what we're doing, what we did during the summer, which was allow students and parents to have the option to wear masks or not to wear masks. As we get further into this report, we'll talk about this matrix, and you'll see that as infection rates escalate and climb in our region, we enter zones where, by all measures, we are going to be in a position where we will be mandating masks for all students and staff in the building when they can't maintain 6 feet of separation. 3 is going to be, with masks, we're asking you to stay 3 feet apart. So to me, it's one of those things where if a person's in an office by themselves, or somebody's on the other side of the office, they remove their masks, I don't expect anybody, the administration, going around, scolding people about not having their mask on if they're completely isolated from people. So I do hope and plan to make that distinction. So a couple things, and then we'll jump into the report that is attached to this. You know, I've held off on sending a letter to parents and guardians. I wanted to get as close to September as we could. So end of this week, I'll start working on it. Hope to get it out middle of next week that has the most up-to-date information for parents and students so that they're well informed as to what the opening day and the 7th will look like. So I just wanted the board to know why that letter has not gone out yet. As I stated, we fully appreciate the New York State federal government has acknowledged the importance of in-person learning and have taken steps to ensure that all students will have that opportunity. In the event that we have substantial or high community transmission, as we do now, our district will be mandating masks for students and staff at the outset of the school year. When we start testing students, which we're going to be, that's part of our layered approach to trying to keep a lid on this pandemic, obviously, and we'd love to see the numbers back down, but we need to know what the infection rate is in our student body and in our staff. So we're going to encourage parents to sign the permission forms to have their children tested. We will work through BOCES and whatever schedule they come up with. I think it's supposed to be 5% of our student body a month. Might be off on that. But last year, we had a pretty good turnout of parents who did sign off. We never ended up testing, but we had a number of parents agree to have children tested. But we only had enough parents to effectively do that for about a month and a half last year. And if we're going to be successful this school year and open as long as we can, we need all parents and staff to sign that permission form to be tested. It's not staff, parents to have their, and guardians to have their children tested. So that's a piece that we'll be encouraging families to do in the coming days. There'll be some literature, some hopefully easy to fill out online forms, and it's important that we know what the virus is doing in our schools so that we can act accordingly. If the infection rate is really low, the number of tests might actually drive the rate so low that we'll be in a moderate to low zone, and students can once again have the option of taking their masks off. So the two actually play off each other, and I hope parents, hope I'm being clear on that, and I don't think I am, but I'm going to say again, the more people who test, the more parents who give permission for their children to be tested, the more information we're going to have, and hopefully that'll show and demonstrate that the viral infection rate is really low, and that'll drive us, those numbers, the more kids tested will drive the infection rate lower, which maybe will mean masks can be optional. I certainly know a lot of people are opposed to masking of students in schools, and I know the board feels the same way, we completely understand those who think that it is not good for children. I agree. But at the end of the day, I think our priorities are in the right place, which is in-person learning is better than remote and hybrid learning, and the safety of all students and staff trumps the options on masks.
Quick question. I mean, so I'm pretty clear, Demo is pretty much the guy that reports this testing.
He's our point person on COVID. He's our
Right, so when a kid goes in or even staff get tested, he's reporting to the department of health.
Bo's going to be doing testing this year.
BOCES is doing this?
So if we find out that the child's positive, then yes, Mike's job is to work with the building administration, determine if and who would need to be quarantined as a result of exposure to that positive case. So that's where Demo's primary responsibility.
I guess my question is more specific about who's reporting the testing in our buildings. Is that Demo? Is that
So BOCES received a federal grant to run testing in our county.
So are they gonna be testing, like, so basically, we're gonna test a certain amount of children every day or week,
Every
whatever.
yeah, I've not
whatever we're required
heard
to
the schedule will
do.
be like,
So BOCES is gonna be in charge of reporting that stuff.
yes.
Now, what about the rest of the county? Where, I mean, is it still, you just go through CVS and you stick a Q-tip up your nose and you can still get tested? I'm just saying for those.
You can absolutely still
that
get tested.
don't vaccinate, like, can you go get tested there?
That is what's driving the numbers right now. So I think in today's article, which I think Jason Subic did most of the research towards the end of last week, you saw that the numbers of people being are testing positive are increasing, as are the number of people being tested. So that's where you get your rate that's 4-point-something%, puts us in a what we call substantial community transmission rate zone. If you test 200-300 kids in Fulton County on top of that, per se, and 2 or 3 of those kids are positive, that invariably is going to drive the transmission rate down. And then that's a great question, because I don't know how nimble the state government's going to be on changing the transmission rate for a given county based on the number of students being tested prophylactically. That's a question I've asked repeatedly and have not received a clear answer on.
Well, I guess just reading, this and all the stuff that you get, to read upon, it's like, it just doesn't seem clear to me. You know what I mean? Like, is it adults or is it just children or students? You know what I mean? Like,
Our testing is for students. Staff, I think that's something that staff would want to be.
Separate rates?
Two separate, no. The effect rate is just based on all residents of the county, yeah.
Okay.
They're talking about who we are going to
Seems to me
test.
it's unclear, wording there that I'm like,
It has to be students and staff. If it's similar to last year, it's students and staff. They put it in place last year, we were ready for it, and the state never enacted it. So now, I think that's going to be a part of this layered mitigation strategies is what they're calling it. So I'm going to ask you to flip to the draft document that is before you. Covers all the things that I think people would be interested in. I just really want to go through this just to make sure the board and I are on the same page. We're moving in the direction that you expect us to.
And real quick, first, going back to testing, is it possible to request for BOCES to maybe put out a short video showing how minimally invasive the test is? I think a lot of parents don't really understand how the test is done and what it looks like. I think if they had a short video to see that, they might realize just how quick the test, how minimally invasive it is, and you might get more parents willing to sign off.
That's a good point. How invasive testing is. I will do that. And I'm sorry I don't have more specifics as to what that's going to look like for testing. But, so you see this document, so it has masking, it shows cafeteria, daily screening, vaccinations, physical distancing, COVID-19 testing, and athletics. So we'll start with masking. And the biggest difference you'll see is low community transmission, moderate community transmission, substantial community transmission, and high community transmission. Those are 4 categories. And the difference is, with masking, it's recommended in low, recommended in moderate, required in substantial, and required in high community transmission. And I think that makes sense. I think that's, my recommendation is that the Glover's and Lawrence School District adopt that plan. That it will be recommended inside school buildings with low community transmission, recommended inside buildings with moderate, but required for substantial and high transmission. Required on buses across the board. Kids are right next to each other. So regardless of transmission rates, for now, we think it's prudent to require masks on busing, and both seasons are busing, and they certainly have a say in that. And I support their desire to ensure that students are going to have masks. We did that this summer as well. So even though we made it a choice in the building, it was required on busing all summer, and there wasn't too many hiccups with that. You'll see exceptions as defined by districts, and that's what gives school districts options as of now. I mean, I've heard that the incoming governor may make mandates where right now there's recommendations, but right now we're going off of the information we have, not what we think might be coming. So those exceptions as defined by districts right now gives the Board of Education administration in every school system in New York State some flexibility and some local discretion. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Actually, I welcome it. Cafeteria, this is interesting. 3 feet physical distancing where practical. Masks when not eating. So in our cafeterias, we bring all of our kids back. You're going to be sitting next to each other. It can't eat through a mask. So students will be removing their masks and eating. The expectation is that when children are done eating, they will put their masks on properly again. we could talk all day about how much sense that makes, and is that truly a mitigation, a strong mitigation plan? What's more important, educating everybody and feeding all those kids that we're educating, or being, really strict when it comes to something like that? So we'll do our best to continue to keep kids 3 feet distance as much as possible. But please understand, I hope the community understands, they're eating, they're gonna have their mess down. There's no way around that. Daily screenings, we're gonna expect families to be screening at home as much as possible, but in conversations with our elementary administration, they're still working to they like that check connect daily eyeball experience that they had last year with kids, and they're hoping to have something similar to that this year. But the stress that we're putting on parents, or not the stress, the responsibility that we're putting on parents and guardians is to make sound decisions if your children wake up symptomatic, regardless of what you think they may have or what their experience has been with allergies. You have a child with runny nose, sore throat, cough, keep them home. Temperature, obviously keep them home. The conversations we've had with the Department of Health, that seems to be the biggest reason in their eyes why this Delta variant is running rampant, is because people are either getting pandemic fatigue, mask fatigue, whatever, but they are in the community symptomatic. And that's a problem. We are not going to be able to keep our schools open if people are sending sick children to school, because inevitably there's going to be kids with COVID-19 coming to school, and you're going to get quarantines, you're going to get a possible spread. They say the Delta variant is more virulent than the previous COVID-19 varieties. Whatever the case may be, parents, guardians, please keep your children home if they are symptomatic each and every day, and communicate with us. Yes, we want students in school. We want them in school when they're healthy. It's the only way for us to keep this school year moving in a direction that's going to serve our students the way it needs to for them to be successful. I can't emphasize enough of keeping sick children home. Vaccination, all eligible students and staff are encouraged to be vaccinated. We will be holding a vaccination clinic in our school in the first week or so. Mike DeMagistris is working on setting up a clinic. I know right now, and this is a point that makes some people I think the science shows that people who are vaccinated there may be some breakthrough cases, but by and large, they're not getting sick. And if that is what is going to help keep people safe, then that's certainly something that we recommend. But again, I respect people who have reservations regarding that.
Quick question on the indoor sports and high risk, volleyball, football, and all that stuff. So if you have people with vaccinated children on a team, we're still required to make them wear masks in the gym?
Unless new guidance comes out right now,
is that how I'm reading it?
Yeah, the indoors right now, there's no discrepancy between vaccinated and unvaccinated.
You're wearing a mask.
You're wearing,
As a spectator, you come in, you're vaccinated, you're wearing a mask.
in a substantial or high community transmission area, yes.
Oh, so it's still, all right, so that's what I asked for my question, because it didn't really seem to me like, the cipher seemed to me like it didn't matter what the rate was, you're still wearing a mask.
Well, I would say this, see where the masking category, and there's the bullet bottom of high community transmission exceptions as defined by districts.
So it's up to us?
Yep.
Okay, I guess that was my question.
So, and again, these are kind of things that are going to be shaken out as we move forward. I mean, let's hope that I heard several weeks ago that they expect the Delta variant to peak sometime in late August, early September, and then to start diminishing. And let's hope that's the case. Let's hope that month and a half into the school year, we're really happy because we're in a low or moderate zone and masks are optional and teachers are able to teach with their masks off and kids are able to be happy and healthy. Right now, we're just trying to keep our priorities straight.
I'm trying to get clear, because every, email I get, from NISBA or, whatever, it all.
So spectators required to mask at all indoor events. Right now, that's the recommendation coming from the Department of Health, from the CDC, from state education. It's interesting, because last year there was more,
Keyword recommendation.
right,
But every district might be different if that's the case.
right. So that's Mike Dimitris's job is going to be to meet with the athletic directors of schools that we're competing against, try to find some common ground, just like we did last year. I mean, there was, that's the one saving grace is we've been through this once, and last year was very complex with the hybrid model, the fully remote options. I'm going to go back to that in a second, because people might be wondering about that. But this year, we're in person 5 days a week. That is the sole learning platform that Gloversville School District is offering. In person, 5 days a week. We are not doing hybrid. We are not doing fully remote with our teachers. I'll get back to options for immunocompromised students, but we are limited as to what we can do for them as well. But let me finish this. The physical distancing, 3 feet where practical inside a school building. 3 feet where practical inside a school building. So there's times when kids will be closer than 3 feet, especially in our elementary schools. The CDC's position on that is if both those students are fully masked, it's okay. So that's where we've changed from last year. Last year was about distancing no matter what. This year it's about mitigation efforts and the need to be in person trumps those hard numbers of distancing requirements. You'll see, again, low community transmission, moderate, substantial, and high, and you move from recommendations of 3 feet to requirements of 3 feet. We're going to do our best as administrative team to keep our kids 3 feet apart. We think, by and large, we should be able to achieve that. It's going to be a little more challenging in some of the elementary buildings, but by and large, we think that for your substantial periods of time, which 15 minutes or more in a 24-hour period, we should be able to hopefully reach that objective of keep kids 3 feet apart or more for that amount of time. Administration, if I say anything that you feel is inaccurate, please speak up. Okay, thanks. COVID-19 testing at school, isolation, quarantine, as required by county or state health department. So quarantines, there's still some interesting information I sent to the board last week about quarantine. If kids both have their masks properly fitted, then that's something we need to ameliorate with our county health department, because that came from New York State Ed's document. The county is still going by the 6 feet, 15 minutes, and you're going to quarantine.
Whether you're vaccinated or not, correct?
That's, again, that's another question that needs to be ironed out, because last year, vaccinated individuals were not required to quarantine. I certainly hope that's the case, because the vast majority of our teaching staff is vaccinated, and if a teacher is within 6 feet for more than 15 minutes of a student who happens to test positive, it'd be wonderful to have teachers still be able to teach.
I thought that might not be the case, so I was asking.
Right, so again, I think that's part of the reason why masks are being recommended or mandated in substantial or high transmission areas, because that caveat would say that teacher has their mask on properly, the child who unfortunately tested positive had his or her mask on properly, then there wouldn't be no need to quarantine. So some of these recommendations that are coming out, again, from the Department of Health, the New York State Education Department, the CDC, the Pediatrics Association, and we've received a lot of recommendations, and this year, no mandates. So that could change. It sounds like our incoming governor is receptive to the idea of mandating masks. So this might all be out of our hands in the short term, in the near future anyway. So last thing I just want to go back to is our fully remote option. So there is not a full remote option. What there is an opportunity for immunocompromised students or medically fragile students to learn remotely through Capital Region BOCES. So if we have a child in our district, and our administration's been working to identify those children, and we're going to be reaching out to them. These are students who we know have a medical condition that puts them in a place that, you know, contracting COVID-19 can be catastrophic. Science tells us, experience tells us, the vast majority of children who contact COVID come out just fine. I think the mortality rate is 0.0008%, is what I recently heard. That's pretty low, but certainly don't want to see a student get it, but certainly don't want to see a medically fragile student contract this virus. So if any parents or guardians of a student with a condition that is as severe as that, hopefully we're reaching out to them. If we do not reach out to you the next few days, there will be some literature going out telling you about an opportunity through Capital Region BOCES that we have a very limited number of slots to participate in, but hopefully everybody who meets that threshold will have the opportunity. It is a virtual learning opportunity where children are taught by a teacher from the Capital Region remotely. They'll be in remote classes like they were last year, but it is not with Gloversville kids, it's not with Gloversville teachers. So there's a downside to that. There's a little bit of a disconnect from the school community, but we need the resources that we have to teach our in-person students, which is the vast majority of children that we have. And we do not have the resources to do fully remote like we did last year. Just don't have it. So we think that this option will serve that small number of students who are medically fragile. And we encourage anybody who's listening to this to reach out to your building principal of your child if you have any questions or concerns. There'll be two separate programs, a K-6 program and a 7-12 program. The 7-12 will be similar to virtual learning, what kids do now in what's called the distance learning network, where students log in as a teacher, and they, you know, we have distance learning classes in our high school now. So that would just be an expansion of that current program. Instead of having one or two distance learning classes, a child would stay home and have their entire high school or middle school schedule as distance learning. And the elementary would probably be a combination of asynchronous and synchronous lessons, again, with teachers from the Capital Region and students from across the Capital Region. So any questions on, I know I just covered a lot of stuff, but I want to make sure that the Board of Education is in agreement with what we're planning. And if there's any questions, you know, I said a lot, and I don't think I was as concise and clear as I could have and should have been. The letter will be more concise and clear. But a lot of ground to cover, and I hope I did a decent job. Any questions on?
I would just kind of reinforce what John said about potentially a video or some kind of a handout, right, for parents to understand exactly what the test is going to entail.
Okay.
That will set their minds at ease.
Ho did that last year. Oliver Robinson himself was recorded being tested, and they did a nice job of that because it was certainly not invasive. So point taken. I will recommend it to BOCES, and it might be something we can do in-house even without BOCES. Regardless of who's doing the testing, we can certainly do a video showing just how non-invasive it is.
There was a few questions that came through. I just figured I'll ask them now. They're going to stagger start times again at the elementary?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Roughly the same thing, right? We're all within a half hour, third, fourth, and fifth grade, Brian?
Yeah, we're trying to figure out the best way to do it and least impact, least negative impact on parents, and also increase our instructional day the best we can. In order to have breakfast at the elementary level, we're going to need to stagger it a bit. So more information on that will be coming out from all the elementary schools next week.
Okay. Do we know what type of testing, COVID testing is going to be?
I think it's going to the Binex Now rapid swab.
Somebody had just missed, you just covered it, but the remote learning option, that's for immunocompromised students. If you haven't received the letter yet, you should be, if not, call your
Yeah,
building.
part of the general communication to parents in the coming days, we'll have a brief paragraph about that option, but I've asked administration to reach out to those students that we know that are medically fragile. And there might be others that the parents feel they are, or unfortunately, a child may have developed a condition since they're in school that puts them in that category. So I would ask parents and guardians to be proactive, and if they think that it applies to them, to reach out to their building principal.
Is that statewide, as far as the no remote, or remote for the compromised only? Is that?
I don't know if it's statewide, it's capital region. There's no schools that I'm aware of that are offering an in-house fully remote program.
So if we get to the point where numbers keep increasing, mandates from the state, if we have to go remote again, I assume we're prepared, right?
We are. It would be similar to like it was in the spring of 2019, where we went from fully, in person, 5 days a week to, if it was a building that had to go fully remote because there was an outbreak in a building, then we would send that whole building, and the teachers, the kids will have their Chromebooks. The teachers will be expected to carry on, hopefully be much better at transitioning to it than we were in the spring of 2019, but we did a pretty good job even then. Yeah, that's certainly a distinct possibility that we could have a building go fully remote for a week or two. I hope that's not the case, but it's realistic.
What about our high school students if they're in a quarantine? If they're exposed, and they have to quarantine 10 days? Are the teachers going to offer, like we did this past year, doing a little bit of both?
Right.
For those kids that are home for 10 days?
So that's going to be a little more difficult. Obviously, kids that are forced to quarantine and the classes going on, I'd like to see the teachers record their lessons and post them. And then say, hey, if you need to watch this is what you missed, and if you have any questions, you communicate with me. But as far as them being able to to partake live, they may be able to do it, but we're not putting that on the teachers day one.
Right.
Because we don't want kids to say, hey, I'm gonna stay home and watch the lesson. That defeats the whole purpose of having everybody in school. But we need to have measures in place to accommodate kids who are quarantined or sick. Anything else? Okay. On tonight's agenda is that cancer prevention policy. I think that's a great policy. It's obviously encouraging people to use sunscreen or sun. It makes sense. It also does allow and promotes the use of hats and whatnot in our phys ed classes, so I just want to make sure the board is clear on that, if you didn't get a chance to read it. If you have anybody saying, why are kids running around hats outside during phys ed class, it's because we're promoting, protecting yourself from the, I as a bald guy know that I got some things growing in my head. I've been sun too much. Board of Ed retreat, we already spoke about that. Reserve plan, Kathy had put together a great reserve plan that's on the agenda. I know the board had an opportunity to see it. And before you vote on it, I didn't know if there was any questions that the board had regarding reserve plan. Kathy had Tim's look at it, and Rick supports it. She went through it line item by line item with me. Our auditors support it. But in case any of the board members have any questions or concerns about the numbers. Okay, Kathy, good job with that.
Great job with it.
Yeah, it's a great plan. And last school boards convention, Danielle just told me that it just opened up. And I know some board members, they're interested in going. But New York City also has some rules in place regarding you have to be vaccinated to attend a lot of things. So I don't know if that changes things. I'm not asking anybody vaccinated who's not, but there might be a game changer. So we have till October 8th to cancel without and able to receive a full refund. So if you are still interested in going, or if you didn't tell Danielle you were interested, but you are now, please email us, but just know that there will probably be some strings attached with New York City's rules and regulations. And last, there was one more, the Boulevard roof project update. September 15th is when the work is supposed to start right now, and this has been a delay in material, insulation material. Had a meeting last week with Bob, Kathy and I, and Bob Grande and Mike, and we said that if it's delayed again, we're just gonna postpone it till next spring. They need a certain amount of, they need a certain temperature for that glue to adhere, and you start pushing, it's a 6-week project, one way or another. There might be some little area where maybe we can attack the lower roof where they've had the most leaks, but by and large, we're gonna try to go for it. if it's September 15th and they're ready to go, there's going to be some distraction and inconveniences, both to students, staff, and people in the community, because for 6 weeks, they're gonna go to gangbusters to try to get that project knocked out. They're gonna work long hours, both during the day and at night. I think they'll be doing mostly rip-offs at night and application during the day, because they need the sunshine to heat up that glue. So they have a plan in place. It's not the first time that anybody's been asked to do something like this. And they say that they can put these in place up right around November 1st with the temperature variance. That
Still weather permitting.
still, of course, weather permitting.
Rain again.
So if we have a really rainy October, they're not just gonna open everything up and start putting it together. They would do section by section. So if they got shut down because of a freak mid-October storm, they would button it up and pick it back up in the spring. Any concerns from the board about our plan to try to move forward to get this done in the fall, in the best-case scenario?
Try to get it done if possible.
To Kevin's point, I still plan to reach out to the community, whether I work through Brian or just do it myself, just get people who live within a block of Boulevard and let them know what we're looking at. I didn't want to send it if this project wasn't going to happen, so I wanted to kind of ride that timeline fairly tight. And if, Bob Grande should know by, say, the first week of September if it's looking good. So right about then is when I was thinking we would send a letter to the people who live in the immediate vicinity of Boulevard, let them know if it's, I'm sorry?
7-1.
So,
It's the corner house.
and there'll be some inconveniences, some odors, some noise, some lights, but it's needed. And that roof certainly needs to be replaced. If we can do it before the winter, that's our recommendation. Sorry for the lengthy report. Vinnie, sorry, we let you down by being too brief. And again, I think the important thing is, for those who might have been listening saying, I didn't understand a word he said, I will try to articulate this much more concisely in a letter in the next 5 to 7 business days.
Okay, any questions? Before we move on to recommended items, we have to go back and do 2.01, do the oath of office for Ed. It was carved there.
Yeah, he needs back camera for that.
Yeah, put the camera on him.
People in the community.
They need to know who he is. I mean, he hasn't been here the last 2 meetings.
Gonna repeat.
Freedom rocks. All right, you ready?
Yes.
I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of New York.
and the Constitution of the State of New York.
I will faithfully discharge,
I will faithfully discharge,
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
the duties of the position of school board member
the duties of the position of school board member
to which I am now assigned.
to which I am now assigned.
There you go.
Question, who's our new student board member?
We don't know yet.
I forgot what their names were.
He did tell us,
On the agenda.
but they don't usually start till September.
They usually come
Right.
Yeah, they come in
Oh, those
September.
are those September? Oh, okay.
We have a lot of items tonight, 6.01 to 15.35. Did anybody need anything held on separately, or all the names blurred together after a while?
I don't think so.
No? All right, any comments, questions on any of those? All right, motion to approve those items. Kelly, seconded by Vinnie. All in favor? And nothing for executive tonight, so motion to adjourn the meeting by Vinnie, seconded by Mike. All in favor? All right, thank you, everyone.